The following is a member of the Burke Reviews podcast family. BurkeReviews.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Burke Reviews Movie Club. I'm Jonathan Burke, and with me this week is Corey Starr.
Hello, hello.
And this month, the month of June 2018, we are watching LBGTQ plus movies. So far, we've watched, Milk, and we watched Brokeback Mountain. And this week, we watched My Own Private Idaho, which I'd never seen, and Corey, you have, correct?
Yes.
And owned on Criterion. I ended up not renting it, but buying it on Amazon Digital for $6.99.
So is it not Criterion anymore?
It still might be, but maybe Digital has another option. I don't know, but it was available to buy for $6.99 on Amazon with Movies Anywhere. So I have it on all my platforms, so I was pretty happy with that. It's Father's Day weekend, and Target has some movies on sale, and I just picked up 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
How much is that?
$12, Blu-ray digital, DVD.
What?
Justice League, which isn't good, but I have to have it because I own the other one, so I have to complete the collection. That was $10, and then also Blu-ray, DVD, digital, and War of the Planet of the Apes, which I had been waiting to buy, and it was only $10. And I saw they had Shape of Water for $12 on Blu-ray. Phantom Thread, $15. I mean, there's some really good deals right now. I'm not sure. Yeah, you'll have this on Father's Day, actually. You'll have this episode, so they should still be on sale. Target doesn't sponsor the show or anything, but I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you like to watch movies, and if you're like me, finding them on sale is always a good thing. The biggest sale I saw was Dunkirk. The 4K Blu-ray with digital was only $13.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Holy heck.
Yeah, and that's a movie that is worth getting on 4K. Even if you don't have a 4K player yet, it does come with it's 4K, a regular Blu-ray, and digital, I think, for $13. So definitely worth that. And if you have an Xbox One S or One X, those are both 4K Blu-ray. Even if you don't have a TV for it, they will play the player. So just a heads up on that one. But before we get into our review of My Own Private Idaho, we're going to talk about what we've been watching and anything else that we might want to talk about. And how you been, Corey? Ooh.
It's been a week, but it's over, and I have weekend now. And my meme is visiting from Florida.
Oh.
So that's exciting. And, yeah.
Yeah, I've had a tough week. I started my Monday, I guess technically it was Sunday night, late, like 11:30. I got a message on Instagram from my cousin, found out that my grandmother had been sick in the hospital for the whole week, and no one had reached out to me. But at the same time, the people that I still talk to in my family had been out of town, so they also didn't know until the day that I found out.
Oh.
So it was just bad timing. So Monday, I was going to go see her in the hospital when my wife got off work. Before we could make it to the hospital, they moved her to hospice. And so I saw her Monday night, and then Tuesday, another family member flew in, and my grandma passed away Tuesday evening. And it's definitely never a good experience, but on some bright side, she's 80 years old, so she lived a good life. I think we always would like a little longer, but 80 is definitely a good chunk of time, more than some people are able to get. And at this point, she was extremely sick, and on a very positive way of looking at it, she didn't suffer for too long, which is, you never know for sure, but she was definitely, when they brought her to hospice, she was not really responsive and stuff. So, it's not, I don't want to say it's okay, but it definitely it was a bit of a shock, at the same time something I've been kind of preparing for, just knowing that she was getting up there in years, and that she had a tendency to keep stuff to herself. So I kind of wonder how long she's been as sick as she was and just didn't tell us. Just because apparently the cancer had spread severely, and she was not being treated for cancer or anything. So, but she went to the doctor regularly for other stuff. That's why we're kind of like, nobody caught that. Like, as much as you go to the doctor, like, but nevertheless, this week I still managed to see quite a few films. I don't know about you. Have you seen any movies this week, Corey?
I had a couple rewatches because man, let me tell you, when I love a movie so much, and then I'm kind of afraid to watch it again because I'm afraid that it won't live up to that. But guys, Hunt for the Wilder People was even better. Even better! Because I saw Deadpool 2, and of course Julian, and I'm forgetting his last name, isn't that?
Julian Dennison.
Dennison. Thank you. So I was like, oh my god, I have to rewatch Hunt for the Wilder People. So I did, and it was even better. Even better. And I rewatched Big Sick. Deadpool 2. And then I saw a horrible movie. A horrible movie. And you saw it, and you didn't hate it as much as I do. I don't even know if you hated it, but I freaking hated Hotel Artemis.
Oh, yeah.
Was the worst movie date.
Friend of the show, Brendan hated it as well. I was fine with it. I didn't love it, but I thought,
like,
go ahead.
Jodie Foster, what you doing?
See, I liked Jodie Foster in this. I thought she was doing this really weird character. I liked, man, I'm not going to remember the lead guy's name, but I liked him a lot too. Yeah, but Brendan texted me, Sterling K. Brown, and Sophia Botella is always awesome. Yeah, I just thought it was just like a crazy fun movie. I didn't think it was, crazy fun's not fair. Crazy, fun movie. Like, it was crazy, not anything too amazing. There's not a whole lot of action. I was intrigued by the world. There's definitely a lot of, like, excess story going on, but I don't know. I didn't hate it, but you hated it. And I can see that. But...
And the music sounded like, and I didn't have any time to do any, like, whatever, but it reminded me of the music a lot from Stranger Things.
I didn't notice that, but I don't always notice movie music if I'm just kind of wrapped up in story or whatever. So it didn't glaringly stand out to me, at least. But okay, I've watched. Is that all? I mean, that's actually a lot. I don't mean to downplay.
I'm forgetting some, but I can't remember because we didn't talk about it on Top 5 either.
No, we didn't. And you rewatched The Big Sick because we kind of just skated past that.
Yeah.
Did that hold up too?
Yeah, so the first time that I watched it, I loved it a lot, and I loved it a lot this time. I had to break it up over 2 nights. I forgot that it's like 2 hours long. But I really love, like, Ray Romano in it, and I'm not always a fan of his.
Yeah, no,
Mostly
I agree.
Just from Everybody Loves Ray. My family loves that show, and I just don't understand at all.
Me either. I don't like it either.
No, and then Holly Hunter, like, we grew up on her in movies. I can't remember of any, like, right now, but I just love everybody in the movie so much. And there are parts that I still just loved as much. And I don't know if I told you, like, for our final paper for my whatever it was, communications class, we used a couple of the clips from Big Sick to,
cool.
like, drive home, like, how I'm so bad at talking. How your culture defines or impacts your, the type of relationships that you have, like romantic relationships, or also like the expectations that your culture puts on you, and how that kind of. So just like doing all that research and stuff, and then watching it again really like drove some of that stuff home. But I just love it a lot, and it's on Amazon Prime, guys. So
Amazon has so many good movies right now. Like, I mean, Lady Bird. I'm gonna like forget everything. The Making of the Room, Disaster Artist.
They have The Witch. I rewatched that kind of recently-ish, and I
rewatched
it tonight.
I probably need to rewatch The Witch because I might have been too harsh on it the first time, but. I've watched quite a few things, starting with Denis Villeneuve's film Enemy. with Jake Gyllenhaal, which I really liked a lot. Definitely one that makes you think, and it's definitely a little bit aware of the fact that it's making you think, but the cinematography's outstanding. I watched El Mariachi, Robert Rodriguez's film that he did, the Rebel Without a Crew book, and then that inspired the TV series that's on the Go 90 network, which I'd like to give a shout out real quick to our friend of the podcast, Alejandro. They and Jamie, actually, they're in New York right now. They showed Monday at the Soho Film Festival, and as of their Instagram post, they sold out the 5:30 screening today, and they're getting a second screening now at the festival because they did so well today. So congratulations, guys, kick butt. And if you are in New York, and the screening hasn't happened yet because they don't know when the second screening is going to be yet, if check Alejandro Montoya Marin on Instagram, or Monday Film on Instagram, and I'm sure they'll post the time there. And if it's not too late and you're in New York, check out Monday. It's a really good movie. It's amazing when you watch the TV series and see everything that went into making it, because it is insane the quality of a film it is for $7,000 and 14 days. I can't even stress how insane that is, that it's a feature film under that criteria. But I'd never seen El Mariachi. I thought I had. I'd only seen Desperado and Once Upon a Time in Mexico City, which are part 2 and part 3 of the trilogy. But El Mariachi is pretty amazing when you know, especially knowing what Rodriguez did with it. But it's a really good movie. That made me want to watch Desperado again, because I hadn't seen that in years. And I really love Desperado. Like, I had a blast watching that movie. And I'm not always a big action movie guy. The stories are always a little over the top for me. But Desperado is totally over the top. But there's some moments in the film that are just awesome. And Banderas is so cool in this movie. Like, there's my favorite part is when he's hiding in the bookstore from the bad guy, and he's trying to reload his gun quietly, and it keeps cross-cutting back and forth between the conversation with Selma Hayek and the bad guy, and then Banderas trying to quietly put a clip in the gun, cock the gun, and his mannerisms are so awesome to me. It's just like, wow, you are so cool. Like, there's a part where he makes a little noise, and he just like makes this head gesture where he says no, like shh, and it's just so cool. And it makes me feel like such a loser, I guess, because I'm like, how can you be so cool doing what you're doing right now? Because you're not doing anything, but you're awesome. And I don't know what it is, just the way Rodriguez shoots it, it's amazing. But I watched both of those, El Mariachi, Desperado. Then I saw Hotel Artemis, which I thought was fine. Not great. I didn't think it was bad. There was some fun stuff in it, though. I thought Batista was actually pretty fun. Like, he was hamming it up. And I've become a big fan of Dave Batista as an actor, which is very rare for wrestlers to pull that off. I mean, it's hard to say that with both John Cena and The Rock getting tons and tons of movies, but that was rare, too. Like, when you think back, like, if you've ever seen Hulk Hogan's movies, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, Hulk Hogan's movies are awful. Like, almost all of them are just absolutely atrocious. And so until The Rock became like a legitimate action star, wrestlers kind of had a bad rap of doing just like B movies. And so Batista becoming what he's become is pretty impressive to me. I got to see First Reformed. I took my aunt back to the Tampa airport, and I swung into the theater there because they were playing First Reformed. That's the Ethan Hawke starring film. It is a really awesome film, but it's very tough. I didn't love the ending, although I've listened to an interpretation of the ending that I like a little more than the way I took it. And so I kind of want to reevaluate my opinion of it, but it's definitely a really strong film with some awesome cinematography, and an amazing performance from Ethan Hawke. And it's his movie for sure. Last night, my daughter and I went and saw Incredibles 2. If you're a fan of Incredibles, you are probably going to be pretty happy with Incredibles 2. I am a fan, and I like the movie a whole lot. This morning, I watched My Own Private Idaho for our podcast, but then, as soon as it ended, basically, I got in my truck and ran up to the mall and watched Tag, the new film with Jeremy Renner, John Hamm, Hannibal Buress, Jake Johnson, I think, and then Ed Helms, and Isla Fisher, I think Isla Fisher, something like that. And I gotta say, I was not super into it. I didn't laugh hardly at all. they do this. They do like a Sherlock Holmes, Robert Downey Jr. Not Guy Pearce. What's his name? Oh, I'm not gonna think of the director's name. It's like right on the tip of my tongue. His style of like action where like it goes slow mo and you hear him kind of mapping out like what he's gonna do. They kind of do that with Jeremy Renner in Tag, and it's kind of cool. And there's a few moments where I laughed a little, but I thought a lot of the jokes fell flat for me. John Hamm is super charming, and I think I could watch him in anything. He's my favorite element of Tag for sure. I don't know what it is about John Hamm, but for me, like if he's talking on screen, there's just so much charm coming out of that guy. I'm on board. I actually am really wanting to watch Mad Men finally because I like John Hamm so much now.
Oh, it's so good.
But
so good.
That is what I've been watching, but I've also been playing a video game like pretty excessively called State of Decay 2. It is on Xbox and PC, I think, and I think it is cross-platform, if I understand correctly. I'm playing it on Xbox. It is a zombie survival game that has like a base building element to it, where like you have your base and you build people, like you gather survivors, and that you can take any one of them at any time and use them as your character. But if one of them dies, they're dead forever. There's all sorts of zombies, and like you're using resources to maintain your base, and you have to keep people happy. It's really fun. It's very stressful at times because like the game will just finally, I think, gets tired of you succeeding, and they'll just throw like everything at you. But it's been a blast, and it is multiplayer, where you can like have friends to get on and help. Like they can bring one of their players from their community and help you go get stuff and whatnot. So I just I don't know. I don't usually talk about video games too much on here, but it's one that I'm a big fan of. And if you've been kind of eyeballing it, I recommend it, especially if you are a fan of like survival zombie games, because it is definitely pushes the envelope, I think, in that realm. So that's what we've been watching. We're going to be talking about My Own Private Idaho, but while Corey, I guess, how'd you come across the article that you sent me, Corey? Not the Chloe Dexter one, but the other one.
I don't remember how I came across it. And hold on.
Well, it
about the tropes.
Yeah, about the tropes, because it's Pride Month this month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's. Go ahead.
I don't remember how I came across it. I think that I was looking up articles about, like gay characters or something, and then I found like gay tropes that need to stop, and it's actually bury your gays.
Bury Your Gays is a film trope, and unfortunately the movies that we've picked, at least the first two that we picked, Brokeback Mountain and Milk, use this trope. And I guess to be fair to Milk, though, Milk is based on a true story.
It's a true story.
So it doesn't mean it's not separate from the trope, but it's not using the trope for the sake of it being a trope. It's adhering to the reality of the film. But you want to explain what the trope is?
No. Pretty much that a gay character has to die. Yeah. I don't know how to.
In a film, a gay character is going to die, maybe for the cause, maybe as a result of his homosexual dealings, or as I wouldn't want to say a martyr, but like a victim of a hate crime, I think is appropriate. So you have a gay character in a film, but they are going to not make it to the end, and that has become a trope. Now, tropes aren't always wrong, mind you, but you know, that definitely has a negative connotation that people are dying.
Mm-hmm. I remember AV Club, which is one of my favorite publications, like posted that article of 20 LGBTQ romances that don't end in tragedy, and I don't know where I got
it. Well, let's look at My Own Private Idaho. It's from 1991. It is directed and written by Gus Van Sant. Oops, my bad. And I didn't notice this last week when we were looking at the stats, but I did notice in the film about, 30 minutes in, that it started feeling very Shakespearean. And sure enough, on the writing credit for IMDb, it says William Shakespeare for Henry IV, which is where he pulls actual scenes and recreates the scenes and kind of integrates them into this movie. It was very... I've not read Henry IV or seen a version of it, but I am very familiar with Shakespearean style dialogue, and it became very apparent pretty quickly to me. I was like, why does this feel like I'm watching a Shakespeare play? And sure enough, after a couple of Google searches, I found several bits of information about it. But the stars: River Phoenix, Keanu Reeves, James Russo, William Richard, who plays Bob, and that's kind of it. Everyone else kind of comes and goes. Flea is way over the top in this movie, but he's playing one of the Shakespearean characters, so that's kind of why. And I definitely didn't like the premise of this movie. What I'm about to read: two best friends living on the streets of Portland as hustlers embark on a journey of self-discovery and find their relationship stumbling along the way. I feel like it's such an understatement of what this movie is. It's a lot more complex than that, because I wouldn't have called them hustlers. I guess they hustle a little bit, but they're definitely survivors, I guess you could say. But they prostitute and whatnot. So didn't know that was going to be, almost your introduction to River Phoenix too, is him turning a trick, I guess. So
having a date.
Having a date, which is a phrasing that I'd not heard before, or at least I can't recall hearing it that way. But
I've heard it, but I don't know. It was just funny.
And this is the first River Phoenix movie that I'm aware that I've seen.
Nope. You've seen Stand By Me, I know it.
True, but as a kid. I've not watched Stand By Me as an adult, and I've been meaning to, actually, because I want to revisit it. But
word.
It's been a long time. I think I saw it in the theater as a kid, and that's, I think, the last time I saw it. I did see Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, actually, and River Phoenix plays young Indy, apparently, but I saw that a long, long time ago. I'm pretty sure I saw Sneakers in the theater when I was a kid, but I don't really remember it. And that looks like it.
Oh man, so I bought this movie because it has River Phoenix in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought it a long time ago, but it just happened to come in our store used, and I've watched the thing called Love, where they are in Nashville. I'm forgetting the actress that's in it, but they're all musicians that are trying to make it as country singers in Nashville. He's kind of a jerk. And Dogfight with Lily Taylor, I watched probably within the last year or so. It was on Netflix. Apparently, people in the service, men in the service, like to have dogfights where they each try to outdo each other and take home the ugliest woman.
Oh.
Or Lily Taylor. And then I've started watching Running on Empty, but I never finished it. I think that has Susan Sarandon in it. But Dogfight was good, and yeah.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not really familiar with him as an actor. And so, but obviously I'm a very familiar Keanu Reeves fan. I've seen a lot of his films. Which I will admit to, the second I realized there was Shakespeare in this, I got very, very nervous.
You're like having horrible flashbacks too.
Yeah, I'm like,
Joker.
Inferno. Yeah.
I still love that movie. I don't even care.
I know, so many people do.
I tell you, I feel like uncultured swine because I have never, ever read any William Shakespeare, but I feel like I just wouldn't be able to absorb it.
Well, I taught Romeo and Juliet for several years when I taught English 1 at our high school, and I read Hamlet when I was in school. It's been a long time since I read Hamlet, though, and I read Julius Caesar in high school as well. I think it's Julius Caesar, maybe it's just Caesar, but I read that, and I think that's it. And then I've read several of his sonnets and stuff throughout the years of teaching. I'm pretty sure that's it. And then I've seen some of the movies inspired by his stuff. Actually, I might have read part of A Midsummer Night's Dream. I definitely have seen a movie version of A Midsummer Night's Dream a long time ago. And I've seen, 10 Things I Hate About You is based off of Taming of the Shrew, I think. And there's like 2 other movies that are in the similar thing that I've seen. This one I had no clue though, even though again it's on the IMDb thing. I didn't read that extra credit. I only read Gus Van Sant, so I didn't realize it going into it today. And there's actually some really cool visuals in this movie that I want to talk about for sure. I hated though the title cards. The title cards
were ugly.
They use these primary colors, and they're just, it comes out of nowhere, and it's just like, it'll be like a red with white text or a green with white text, and it looks so cheap and art. I definitely think it's intentional. The film is very indie. It's definitely got a more of an art house vibe than some of his other stuff. The story's a little more kind of free flow and loose at times. Again, then he borrows from Henry IV, but Keanu Reeves' character would have been the lead in Henry IV, and he's not the lead in this movie. So the borrowing of Henry IV is almost like a subplot to the overall story, which is about River Phoenix's character, Mike. And his story kind of isn't a story either. You know, like, I don't feel like he has a goal that isn't clear at first, but becomes clear as the movie goes. But I don't feel like there's any closure on that particular goal, which I won't say until we get to spoilers. But, and I don't feel like he really arcs, making him feel less like the main character and more like a side character. But he is definitely where the film focuses. We're very rarely away from him, and I'm not sure we're ever 100% away from him. He's always close by. If we're just with what is it? Scotty is Keanu Reeves' character. But I overall, I'm more positive on this film than I'm negative. But there are things that I like in films that were definitely missing, and Strong Story is one of them. I don't feel like the story is.
I just think it's sad.
Yeah, and I don't think that's what they're going for either. I do think they're going more for character, and I do think the characters are interesting, not entirely empathetic or sympathetic, but yeah, I don't feel like there's anything like bad, and there's definitely some really cool stuff in this movie that I will talk. I feel like all of it's kind of spoiler-ish, but like there's 2 times they use. When they have a sex scene, they do like stop motion, or not stop motion, but like still life.
So weird.
Yeah, that's why I think it's great though, is because it is so weird. Because it's not a picture. The actors are actually not moving. They're in like freeze frame, but it's clear that they're trying not to move because they're like shaking, and so it's such a unique way of showing a sex scene because it'll jump. Huge jump cuts from like them in one position to a different position to a different position, and it's just them standing there frozen as if it's a still life picture, but it's not. And I found that really interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that before, at least not in a sex scene. And it's not a graphic, like, I mean, it's implied graphic, but I don't even think there's any nudity in that sequence. Maybe a butt, but nothing over the top, and I thought that was really cool visually. And there was one other thing that I thought was really cool visually, but I don't remember what it was. I'm looking at my notes now, but Corey, you've seen it before, but what are your thoughts on My Own Private Idaho?
I totally agree. There's like no closure, really. And also agree. I don't know. I thought that the sex scenes were very uncomfortable. Like, I don't know. There's just something about them that was off-putting.
I think because you have to stare at it, and I mean they're doing weird stuff. Like there's
they're
one
in the
scene
window against the wall, I think.
Yeah, I mean, well, and the one scene where it's the 3 guys, like they have like weird toys, like.
Oh yeah.
I don't even think they're toys. I think they're like weight loss tools. Like I think they're like the thing where they pinch you to see how much fat you have. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's what they look like to me, like measuring devices, and they're using them as toys. But
it's accessible.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think the other thing I guess that I really liked was the Shakespearean elements of it. I thought that was some interesting stuff. Because I don't see anything like visually. I thought there was one other visual thing they did. I mentioned the title cards. I can't stand those. Okay. So overall, I'm positive on the movie. It's definitely. I don't think it's one everyone will enjoy. I don't know that it has. Like, there are some elements of the homosexual relationship that I think are positive, but overall, I don't know that this is a progressive film, like towards like homosexuality.
Yeah. I thought, so I was reading the Wikipedia, which we all know is a trusted source, but anyways, it's one of my favorites. And apparently, let's just go to spoilers.
Oh, wait, no. Now I feel like you set up something. What happened?
I did, but I can't really talk about it without spoilers, so I apologize.
Okay, well, Corey is also positive on the movie?
Yeah, I would probably watch this again. I want to see more of River Phoenix's films.
I mean, he doesn't have a huge catalog, unfortunately, because of...
Yeah, because he was 23 when he passed away.
And it was drug-related, was it not?
Yeah.
A shame. That's why I have
At
always
the
stayed
Viper
away.
Room.
One last thing, too. I guess the movie opens with narcolepsy as a definition, and I am very familiar with narcolepsy. I don't know why. It has been in a lot of films that I've seen, and maybe in 1991 it hadn't been as prominent. But I also thought it was kind of lame to have like a dictionary definition.
Well, I have never, because he kind of looks like he's going to have a seizure.
It does, yeah.
And I never have heard of that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
With narcolepsy, I just thought that they, you better be somewhere comfortable because you're going to fall over, and fall asleep. But he looks like he's seizing.
Yeah, he's shaking. Yeah, and I don't know if that's just not knowing what it is, as like maybe Van Sant didn't get it, maybe Phoenix didn't understand what he was wanting him to do, or they couldn't communicate, or maybe I've misunderstood what narcolepsy is.
Same, but if I probably would have just thought he was having a seizure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
All right, so Corey is ready to go into spoilers. So, Corey,
dun dun dun. We're going to talk about this movie in great detail, probably. If you don't want to have any spoilers, go watch the movie and then come back. You've been warned.
Before we get back into what you were about to say, I do have to say, for a movie that's called My Own Private Idaho, I was surprised at the very limited amount of time we spent in Idaho.
It's not even in Idaho.
There is one moment in Idaho.
There is in the movie, but that was definitely... I was like, I haven't been all over Idaho, but I stay away from the north because apparently there's it's pretty backwater up there. Well, but
yeah, most of Friends is filmed in California though, so I mean, that's not uncommon.
But, like that highway scene that we see over and over and over again, I forget what it's called here, a royal desert or something. So it's very dry, but it's actually pretty green. So as many places as I've been in some shady, creepy, this is how horror movies start, like Population 82 towns and on some highways, and it's never been that brown. You know what I mean?
Got it.
I was just like, and I mean, we have some pretty majestic mountains, but I don't know. Well, and I was reading, I think it was pretty much filmed in Oregon.
Oh, that makes sense. I mean, it starts in Seattle. Well, it starts in Idaho, but it doesn't tell us that it moves to Seattle, moves to Portland, goes to Idaho, then goes to Italy, I think, or wait, does it go back to Portland, then Italy, and then back to Portland, and then back to Idaho? Like, it moves around quite a bit. Not every single time does it go with a title card, but most of the time it does. But what were you saying before we got into spoilers?
So apparently the part at the campfire where they're talking about love and Keanu, Scotty's like, I could never love a man. I think he says he can sleep with them or something. And then Mike is like, I don't have to have money to love a man. I love you and you don't pay me. And apparently when it was like written, it wasn't like clear that Mike's character is really gay. And I guess that he rewrote it, River Phoenix did, and he took it from like a 3-page scene to like an 8-page scene or something.
Oh wow.
I don't know, but that was from Wikipedia. But and I was just reading through like some of the stuff that apparently he was supposed to be in Interview with a Vampire, Christian Slater's role, and apparently he was being cast to play Cleve in Milk.
Oh.
Because Gus Van Sant had been wanting to work on that in like the 90s, and then he like dropped the project.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I could see that actually. Now, so to go back to that scene, because that's actually two things happens now. Because one, I remembered what the other visual was. It was the magazine sequence where the covers of the magazines all come to life.
Yep.
I really like that sequence, which I've seen things like that before, but I particularly like the way he did it because there's a telling line in that where Keanu Reeves says, what happens when you give it away for free? You grow wings. And then he elaborates and says you become a fairy, implying that he's not gay, but he'll have gay sex for money. And you're not gay until you do it for free. That was the statement that he's making there. And he says it to Mike, who's on another cover of a magazine, and he says, you know, what do you call, what happens when you give it away for free? And he's like, you grow wings. That's right, you become a fairy. And that sets the tone there, and then the conversation at the campfire elaborates on that, and he says, you know, two men can't love each other. And Mike counters it, and I thought that was the only scene in the film that's really dealing with that idea of homosexuality, because if you're listening to Scotty, the guys that are having sex with other men for money aren't gay. They're performing a service. It's a job. It doesn't imply your sexual orientation, according to Scotty. Now, is that Scotty's way of dealing with his repressed homosexuality? That's definitely debatable, although he meets a girl in the movie and falls in love while they're in Italy. And I think we see her with him after he's inherited, so he stays with her. Again, is that because he's doing what he's supposed to do now? That's what society expects, which you definitely get that implication.
Maybe he's bisexual.
Maybe he is bisexual. Or, again, he says he's living this degenerate lifestyle, and when it's time, when he's 21, and he gets his inheritance, he's going to become this expected individual. He'll become the person his dad wants him to be, and that all is from Henry IV. My understanding is his character is the prince who is going to become the next king, will be Henry V, and he is living a rebellious, degenerate lifestyle, living amongst thieves and things like that. And I don't think necessarily he's a prostitute who will sleep with, you know, a hustler, a dater, I guess. Because, again, even there, when we first meet Scotty, he's not having sex with a man, he's having sex with a woman. He's been hired with two other guys. Oh, is that a person?
Yes, she always plays a crazy mother, though. She's the crazy mom in Twin Peaks, and she's the crazy mom in Big Love, and I'm forgetting what else she's been in. But it was so weird, like, because I forgot she was in that. She's so young looking.
Well, yeah, and that's the first time we see River Phoenix, Mike, pass out because of stress, apparently. And then Scotty leaves him on the side of the road. Well, not side of the road, like hidden in someone's yard, basically. In
a nice neighborhood, though.
In a nice neighborhood, which he explains, and then he says, meet up with me later, and then they do, and Udo Kier, I think is his name. He's an actor that I like a lot. He shows up in a lot of like side roles. Like he's in American Animals this year, but only for like one scene. And he was in Downsizing, I think, but not for very long. He does that a lot, and he was on Lost. And he shows up here in a very small role. First, he picks up Mike on the side of the road, and then later they meet up with him in I don't remember where they were. I feel like they were like in a casino when they met up with him at the hotel, like later in the movie when they end up having the three-way with him. And then the weird like frozen sex scene where like it's them standing in these weird positions with pinching each other's nipples and things like that. It's crazy. You know, one thing I didn't get from like listening, I didn't understand what Scotty's dad was.
He's the mayor.
He is the mayor. I didn't catch that in the beginning of the film. I thought he was like prominent and like successful, but I didn't understand how so. He's the mayor of Portland though, which is why later when there is a raid on the hotel where all the homeless people are living, the cops see Scotty and they know he's the mayor's son, and they're just
I thought
like,
they were there looking for him.
See, I thought they were looking for Bob, the big guy.
Oh, see, I thought that because his dad was like, "And bring my son to me," because I don't know. I thought that
I think there was. I think they were looking for Bob, but also good chance that he's there because we're told that Bob and Scotty had a relationship, like not necessarily a sexual relationship, but some kind of connection where he was like a mentor. And based on the Henry IV stuff that I read in relation to this, that is the relationship. He was like a secondary father to him. Like he's the rebellious role model where his dad is the prim and proper. But yeah, I felt like the mayor thing kind of it went over my head somehow. I guess I don't know, but I did realize it partway through the movie, but not early on. Yeah, let's talk, I guess, about the ending, Corey. What you noted that there isn't closure.
No. Well, first Scotty and this girl just leave Mike, kinda. He gives him enough money where he can at least go home, but yeah, he just leaves with this girl and leaves Mike to kind of fend for himself. And then when we end up finding out that Scott has inherited this money, and okay, so did Scott inherit the money because he's 21, or because his father died, or they happened simultaneously?
It appears simultaneously because we were told at one point that he was gonna get his inheritance at 21.
Mm-hmm.
And
if he's such a degenerate, you know what I mean, and he's such a disappointment, I'm surprised that his dad is leaving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there was a moment where he hugs his dad, where his dad seems to be debating whether or not he can trust his son, and he kind of says, "Trust me, Dad, I will be the person you want me to be, just not yet. I'm not ready to be that person right now, but I will be. When the time it comes, I will be exactly what you want me to be, and everyone will be surprised at how great I am." I like Keanu a lot in this movie. I think one of the things I read about Henry IV said that he mumbles. I didn't feel like he mumbled anything that wasn't well thought out. Like I thought he'd give one of his better performances. He gets to be over the top a few times, which I thought he did a good job with, for the most part. And River Phoenix is very subtle with his performance. I liked him a lot too. I don't know. I haven't seen any of his other stuff. Well, now as an adult, I've not seen any of his other stuff, so I don't know how this compares. If this is a good performance for him, if this is a bad performance. There was a few times where I felt like he seemed checked out, but I kind of thought that was the character. That the character is kind of checked out of everything. He's distant and the dad, his dad.
Yes.
Was that also his brother, or was he just saying it was his brother?
That's why I was gonna ask you about that because. Yeah.
Because he definitely said it was his brother.
Mm-hmm. But then his brother is trying to tell him about his real dad, and then he's like, "Well, I know it's been you. I've always known," or something.
Yeah. And so
I mean, the mom abandoned them, so
yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't mean that that's what happened, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, correct. He might have the guy might have said, "I'm your brother," because he didn't want him to know he was his father. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what we're supposed to take from that.
Well, but they showed the picture of like the mom, and I thought it was the brother, and the brother was young.
Yeah, I don't know. That whole thing seemed kind of like a fever dream. Which, I mean, you could argue that this movie is like, it is all a dream, because so much of it is erratic, and like even the first time we see him on the road, I don't know when that is. Because he's wearing like a mechanic shirt, right?
Yeah.
And it has the name Bob on it.
That's right.
So I mean, it's implied that he's dealt with Bob before we meet Bob, but at the same time, like, is it a coincidence? Is that supposed to be that Bob's shirt? I don't know when in the timeline that first scene of him on the road is, because I think we see him on the road 3 times or 4 times in the movie, and that, I'm guessing, is his own private Idaho. That's his spot where he keeps ending up. So, like, there's some things about this movie, and he's narcoleptic, which we see play out multiple times where he passes out or whatever, but could a lot of it be a fever dream? Is that why it turns into a Shakespearean play at some point? The whole robbery sequence where they're in the pink robes is like, what the hell is happening?
How did Bob and those guys not know who the heck that was?
Right.
How could they possibly not know? They're pretty much wearing the same thing that you're wearing, just a different color, too.
Well, and they even noted that they vanished, because it wasn't like there was a bunch of people. Like, there was 6 of them. 2 of them went missing, and they're just like, oh, the cowards ran away. But it's like, yeah, but then you got mugged by 2 people. What the hell? Yeah, it's such a weird scene. I don't know how that plays. That is a scene from Henry IV, apparently. So I don't know how exact it was, but there is some type of robbery sequence like that in Henry IV. Maybe there's more guys there. Maybe the disguises are less weird. I don't know. Yeah, that whole sequence was weird. And I didn't think it was particularly shot well either. There was some other stuff, though, where the movies shows Van Sant his ability, but there's other moments where it's like, that's not the best. But it's definitely a lower budget movie. It feels like a lower budget movie. It's a lot of little art house stuff in it.
I think it was 2.5 million.
Really? That doesn't feel like a low budget for 91.
No.
Is that what it made?
No, it made, I think that it said on Wikipedia, 6 point something, I think 6.25 or something million the opening weekend.
Well, I mean, Keanu already done Bill and Ted, so he's a big enough name where he would have been a big paycheck. Not a huge paycheck, but a decent sized paycheck. River Phoenix was, I imagine at that time, was making pretty decent buck, because this is like middle of his career. But yeah, I overall liked it, but the very ending, we see him asleep on the road again. This time he gets robbed. Someone stops their truck, gets out, steals his shoes and his bag. Yeah, and leave him sleeping. Then we zoom out in the middle of the road. We zoom out to a wide shot, and I really like this shot, mind you. But another vehicle pulls up, and they put him in the vehicle. Now I couldn't tell if that was supposed to be his brother / father, or just a random person. But that's all we get. We don't know what happens to him. Is he being rescued there? Is he being kidnapped? Is he being murdered? You're just kind of left not knowing what's the next phase for Mike.
Too. So, like, you know what I mean? I feel like those people are marginalized. I don't know. Like,
yeah, no, you're right. Actually, that might be the message the movie's trying to put out there. Is like, he's left. Scott's abandoned him. Scott's abandoned everybody. He abandons Bob, and I love that scene when Bob goes asking for money, and he just says, "I do not know you," and basically tells him to get lost. And just Bob's so heartbroken that he dies. It's pretty crazy and intense even, but yeah, there's a lot in this film. I think another watch is almost needed to really grasp all the little things, because I think there's a lot left for interpretation. I would love to watch a version of Henry IV, and then watch this again too, to like make those comparisons.
Cliff notes.
Well, that's why I said watch. I don't want to read it.
I said Cliff Notes. I'm not even going to watch it.
Yeah, but I feel like watching's still faster than reading Cliff Notes. So, but yeah, I don't know if there's a good version of Henry IV. Now I'm going to check that out. But that is, I think, all I have to say about this movie. Is there anything you want to add?
Mm-mm.
All right. I think my rating for this film, I'm going to go with not quite golden. I think that feels appropriate. I don't think it's a must-see, partly because I don't feel like... I am very heavy story, and I don't think this story is particularly outstanding or amazing. The character work is good. I don't think it's the best. I think there's some really cool visuals here. I definitely think there's a lot of good things in this movie, but not enough for me to say must-see. So I'm going with the Not Quite Golden Pony Boy.
I need to make my own ratings.
Or, just...
No, because I'm always like a 3.5.
Yeah, let's see. I just then pick. Where do you feel like it leans the most? Is it more decent watch, or is it more Not Quite Golden?
I'll go with Not Quite Golden Pony Boy. I would watch it again.
Okay, well, there you go. Our next episode of the podcast, Corey has picked the movie. Do you remember what you picked, Corey? Because I'm not looking at it yet, but I'm working on it. That's a silent answer. So it looks like A Single Man is what you have on our list.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with this movie, A Single Man.
I missed it in the theaters. I think it only came to the flicks, maybe.
All right. Well, we got Colin Firth, I'm a fan of. Julianne Moore. Matthew Goody. Oh, Nicholas Hoult. Excuse me. I like him quite a lot. I don't know that guy. I don't know how to say his name either. I'm not going to try. Jennifer Goodwin I'm familiar with.
She's in Big Love.
And she was on the Disney princess type show. She was Snow White, but I can't think of what that show's called. Once Upon a Time? That's what it's called. No. Oh, it's a Tom Ford movie. He did Nocturnal Animals, which I'm a big fan of. And he did one of the worst... he's costume department. Never mind. Is this his only other directing? Yes, it is. Okay, cool. I've seen his other directed film. I did not know he had another one. An English professor 1 year after the sudden death of his boyfriend is unable to cope with his typical days in 1960s Los Angeles. Ooh, man, okay.
A timepiece. A period piece.
And this is based on a novel by Christopher Isherwood. And I'm intrigued. I've seen the cover of this, but I didn't know what it was. I've never looked into this movie whatsoever. I'm excited now. Good pull, Corey.
Yes.
Let's see if we can find out if it's on any streaming services. But we'll be back with next week's episode to review this film, and I'm going to try to tell our listeners where they can watch it. But in the meantime, let's go with our social media. Corey, how can people follow you?
At Corey R Star, 2 R's on the end.
And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Burke Reviews. That's BERK Reviews with an S at the end. A Single Man is available, not easily whatsoever. It looks like it's on Fandango now and Microsoft to rent, and that's it. It's not showing for iTunes or anything.
Oh, dang.
That is not a good sign. It is available on Amazon physical media. You can order it for $11, not on Prime. So one of our more complicated films. Hopefully it's going to be easier to find than it looks. But if you have access to A Single Man, we say check it out. It looks like we didn't do any pre-research to make sure this was going to be something we can actually watch.
Sorry, I just was like, ooh, I've been wanting to see this.
What we'll do as a backup, if for some reason we're unable to see this movie,
I found it for $5.
Where?
Blu-ray on Amazon.
Oh, it does not look like that's still the case.
What?
Yeah, because I just looked and it's like it.
Oh, it's used. I'm sorry.
Oh, used isn't bad.
I usually use it on my phone. So.
Well, no, I don't mind buying it used. I buy used movies all the time. It's there, $8.99 on DVD, and then the DVD's Prime, so I'll probably do that. So we'll watch this. We'll just have to finagle this a little more than we usually do, but A Single Man is what we're going to be watching and reviewing for our next episode. I'm excited about it. We've got one more after that for this month, and then we'll be moving on to our next topic. Man, my brain went kaput there for a second. It's been a long week, folks. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you do, please like and share us, and rate us on whatever platform you're using. iTunes is the most important there. Let people know that you like us. Tell people about the podcast and help us in any way that you can. You can read all of my reviews at burkreviews.com. And until next time, Corey, thank you.
Thank you.
And everybody out there, keep watching movies. This has been a Burke Reviews podcast. burkreviews.com.